Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle here to talk a little bit more about the NFL draft. Now, for the last couple of weeks, we have been honed in on NFL free agency and those current NFL players, but the new crop of NFL players are getting ready to join us here in the league. So I think we need to spend a little bit more time talking about them. We're going to have some more mock drafts coming your way now that free agency is kind of settled down. A majority of the top guys have been signed. Still a few more guys to kind of pan out at this point that could affect some NFL draft positions, especially there in the first round. But a lot of things have kind of started to settle into place. So we're going to be doing another mock draft very soon. But today's video is going to be all about the top 10, well, my top 10 NFL draft prospects for this season. We're going to start at number 10 and work our way back to number 1. And we're going to talk about which draft prospects I find to be in the top 10. Now, these rankings could be a little bit different than maybe what you have, than what you've read about. And they could be greatly off from some different websites that you use to look at prospect rankings. But just know, we've been grinding film for a while now. We've been grinding prospect reports for a while now, watching pro days, watching the Senior Bowl, watching the Combine, all of these things. And I feel like I'm starting to get a really good read on some of these guys and what their potential upside is and what I see for them. And we'll discuss it and explain it more in this video. But if you're looking for more detailed, in-depth information, then you got to make sure that you head over to our other YouTube channel, Headliner U, where Chris Chouse and Chris Kennedy are breaking down individual players and their prospect reports and going more in-depth on every single guy. So you need to go over there and subscribe to that channel as well and make sure that you're checking out all the hard work that they are putting in over there. But I think we need to go ahead and talk a little bit about who I believe to be number 10 overall in this draft. And it is going to be the cornerback out of LSU, Derek Stingley Jr. Now, out of all the cornerbacks in this draft, and I think there's some very good ones. There's a couple of guys that might end up being a little underrated. There's a couple of guys that I don't think are getting enough love. There's a couple of guys that I think might be getting a little too much love. But with all that being said, there are going to be some difference makers in this draft class at the position. And Derek Stingley Jr. to me is going to be the guy that has the best chance to be the best overall prospect. He can fit several different schemes. He can play man-to-man. He can play in zone. He's a little bit stronger and can play physical. He's got the man-to-man lockdown ability. He's a ball hawk. He can really do a lot of things. Now, for me and Derek Stingley, the reason I have him at number 10 is because I do believe that he is a guy that across the board is very good. Very good across the board. He might not be a guy that you look at any single individual trait and go, this guy is amazing in that area. But you can look at all of his traits and say, this dude is really, really good in everything that he does. And that's why I believe he's a top 10 player, because there's not really a whole lot of faults I find in his game right now. I believe that he's the best all-around cornerback in the draft, and he's going to be a guy that is going to greatly help a team. And I, as of right now, have his projection currently sitting at 9th overall to the Seattle Seahawks, who are going to need lots of help all over the place. I don't believe that they're going to reach for a quarterback here and try to take one, and we'll discuss why here in a couple of minutes. But I don't think they're going to be reaching for anybody, so they're going to go with that defense. They're going to be going with ways to stop players. I think they're going to be kind of getting back to that run-first offense that they've really tried to implement and keep at the forefront of their game plan for years now. But when you've had a guy like Russell Wilson for so long, they've really kind of let that slip away from them at times. Now that they don't need to do that, I think they get back to playing defense very well, playing with the running game very well, and really controlling the clock and controlling the game. I think he'd be a great fit at number 9 to the Seattle Seahawks. Let's go to number 9 overall, Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher out of Florida State. Now, I've got him projected right now at 7th overall to the Giants, who are going to need an edge rusher. And I've talked about this in a video I did a while back where I did some NFL comps with some of these top guys. And Jermaine Johnson, for me, stands out as being a very comparable player to Brian Burns, a former Florida State prospect who I fell in love with. And the reason why I like that is because there are some tech things that Jermaine Johnson is going to have to do and clean up to become maybe one of the top edge rushers in the league if he ever wants to try and get there. But Jermaine Johnson is a guy that has all the intangibles. He has the tools, he has the length, the drive, the speed, the bend. He's got a lot of different things that he can do really, really well on the outside. And he's a very raw prospect that once you take some of those things and mold them into a little bit better technique, he's going to be getting after some guys. Now, Brian Burns, same way. When he came out of Florida State, dropped a little bit in the draft, just outside number 10, but not very much. But with the Giants needing a pass rusher and really needing to address their lines on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, Jermaine Johnson, with their second pick in the first round, the Giants will end up getting Jermaine Johnson and being able to put him at the edge and using him to really get after those other quarterbacks there in the NFC East. One of the big boys in the draft, offensive tackle out of Alabama, Evan Neal. Evan Neal is a gargantuan human being, and in terms of just his overall ability as a prospect, he's going to be good. He's solid. He's very good. There's not really anything that you look at with Evan Neal and say, man, this kid cannot do it. He is going to be a guy that is going to be somebody that can step in and play left tackle right away and be very successful in the NFL. And I'm going to go with him at number 6 to the Carolina Panthers. And you might be thinking to yourself, Kyle, they really need a quarterback. And I get that. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute and why some of these teams that might need a quarterback end up going with a different position. But Evan Neal, they really work on redefining that offensive line. Obviously, they missed out on bringing in Deshaun Watson. Not going to need to worry about trading Christian McCaffrey anymore. And their running game is going to be a vital part of this offense this year because they are going to have to run the ball effectively to take the pressure off of their boy, Sam Darnold, if Sam Darnold ends up being the starter. So for me, definitely looking at it and saying, yeah, Evan Neal's the guy that can come in, start at left tackle right away, open up holes. He's going to be very good in the run game, very good in the pass game. He's going to do really everything that you're going to need an offensive tackle to do. There might be a little bit of conversation about this one here. And I have yet to really move off of this thought process for me. It's Garrett Wilson. He is still my wide receiver 1 in this class. And really, that seemed to be kind of a consensus for a lot of people through the college football season. And then after the season, we kind of started to see this process where other wide receivers jumped over Garrett Wilson. Drake London is being looked at as being over Garrett Wilson right now. Another guy over Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, his teammate. Some people had him below Garrett Wilson for a while. After a really good combine, all of a sudden he's back over Garrett Wilson. Taking a look at other guys at wide receiver as well, Treylon Burks, a lot of people believe him to be over Garrett Wilson. Really the only thing with me with Garrett Wilson is sometimes I feel like he just gets a little ahead of himself. If you watch the tape, it's almost like his mind is telling his body to do something, but his mind's thinking so quickly and going through the process and developing the changes in his route and reading defenses and things so much that it just appears to me that sometimes he gets a little bit ahead of himself, and you can kind of see it in his route running ability where maybe his feet don't really catch up to what he's trying to do. And it's not because he has slow feet or anything like that. It's just because he's got such a great pure knowledge of the game and he knows exactly what he's going to do, and he's so confident in his technique that he just has to allow some of that technique to continuously catch up to him. And I think that's something that irons itself out. Those are things right there that don't worry me as an NFL prospect, because you've got the ability, obviously. You've got that thought process. You know the game. You know what you're supposed to be doing. If you know those things, it's just about continued repetition, especially at the higher level, and you'll pan those things out. And another reason that I really like Garrett Wilson is because I think once he gets to the NFL, he's going to be a guy that can go inside and outside with ease and fit a lot of different schemes. He's a guy that, as you can see in this picture, he can win at the point of attack. He can go up and get the football. You see it in this picture here. If you watch the Ohio State-Michigan game last season, he had a great touchdown in the corner where he went up and got the football and controlled his feet coming down and got them in bounds. He can high point the ball, and he can win those jump balls against some of the best cornerbacks in the league, I believe. But he's also got the burst and the acceleration and the route running ability to move into the slot, win some of those shorter routes on the route tree, and use that burst and acceleration to win those routes and then pick up yards after the catch. For me, at number 11 to the Commanders in Washington, I think that this is a really good fit because Terry McLaurin will be able to continue to be on the outside, and then you can move Garrett Wilson where you see fit. Move him to the outside if you want to, move him to the inside if you want to, do a little bit of both things with him, and that's why I continue to have him at number 7 because for me, when I look at Olave, Burks, and Drake London, and even Jahan Dotson, those are guys that I look at and say, those are outside wide receivers. I don't necessarily see them being able to go in and out as much as some of the other guys, especially a guy like Wilson here. And when I can get a little bit of extra mobility there with my wide receivers, being able to move them around kind of helps me develop my offense a little bit better and stay fluid with the offense. I like to have that opportunity, and that's why I'm going to continue to have Garrett Wilson as my top wide receiver in the draft. At number 6, another name that might surprise some people here, but I fully believe that this kid is going to be a dominating force at the next level, and it's going to be Jordan Davis, interior defensive lineman out of Georgia. Now, with Jordan Davis, I saw some comments on some of my mock drafts earlier in the offseason, the first couple of ones that I did, and some people responded and said, no way I want Jordan Davis. All he's going to do is stuff the run. But then you watch this guy at the combine, and I'm not by any means saying that a 40 time tells the entire story, but Jordan Davis's 40 time tells a story that a lot of people don't know or understand. This kid is not just a run stuffer. This is a kid that really can get all over the football field. He literally can get from the interior part of the defensive line to the outside in a matter of seconds and track down running backs. Get to wide receivers that maybe are running a screen or some of those passes in the flat to a running back, or those swing passes. Those are things that Jordan Davis is going to be able to do. To me, he's kind of like an Aaron Donald without the sacks. He's not going to be dominating in the middle of the defensive line in terms of being able to have as many sacks as you see Aaron Donald have, but this is a guy that is going to have the ability to stuff the run the way he does and the athletic ability to get outside the way Aaron Donald does. Aaron Donald moves to the outside very, very well. He gets away. He can either go right after the quarterback, or he can stay back and get the run. He's able to control himself in those situations. And that's what I see with Jordan Davis. I see a kid that, yes, he's a big guy in the middle of the offensive line, but he has such an amazing athletic ability that he's going to be able to stuff the run for you. And he's also going to be able to help on the outside and do some different things there as well. And that's really why I've got this kid all the way up here, because I think he's going to be a very good defensive lineman. He's going to rack up some of his counting stats that you see might not jump off the charts to you. Like, he's not going to put up gaudy numbers the way Aaron Donald does. And please don't walk away from this thinking that I'm saying Jordan Davis is the next Aaron Donald, because that's not it at all. The numbers are not going to be gaudy like Aaron Donald, but he's going to have the ability to really have different aspects of the offensive line be game planned around him. Double teams, extra attention to him. So even though there's some things that won't show up on paper, there's things that will show up on video that will help his team win. And the Chargers, who were one of the worst teams in the league last year in terms of the run game, I don't really understand the wide receiver talk of them taking one. You've still got Keenan Allen. You just signed Mike Williams to a 3-year deal. You've got other guys there too that can really help out in the passing game, that can really win all over the place. And we've seen them step up and help. I'm not a fan of the Chargers taking a wide receiver. I would rather have them work on that defense, and that since they've spent so much time on making sure that Justin Herbert has his weapons, and really try to stop other teams in what's going to be a very, very, very competitive AFC West. At number 5 is a guy that a lot of you probably were not talking about until a few weeks ago. And I will admit to you all that he wasn't necessarily as heavy on my radar as some people until a few weeks ago as well. And that's Malik Willis, Liberty quarterback. And I am coming around to the idea of my Detroit Lions taking him at number 2 overall. Here's the thing. Willis is a guy that I knew about, okay? Before the Senior Bowl, I knew about Willis. I knew that he was a guy that was a very raw prospect, but I also knew that he was a guy that when talking about it and looking at it, he was a guy that I thought, man, if he does some things right, he could really end up rising up the draft board pretty quickly. And that is exactly what has happened with him as of recent. He goes to the Senior Bowl, has an excellent Senior Bowl, showcases that amazing arm, showcases some other abilities as well, abilities that a lot of quarterbacks just don't seem to have at sometimes. Showcases, yes, that upside is there, that he's going to have to learn at the next level. A team that drafts him is going to have to be able to develop him. But once they do, he could have some tremendous upside. And when that happens, he is going to be a difference maker at the NFL level. Malik Willis is a guy that I absolutely think now that the Detroit Lions take at number 2 overall. There's too many things pointing to them not doing it. The one thing that I absolutely love about players, and a lot of people when you talk about NFL players, they talk about, what they see on tape and things like that, and I get it, but I'd love to hear about how did their interviews go? How good, how is their game knowledge? How smart are they when it comes to reading defenses, to making changes on the run, to understanding the game of football so well? Malik Willis showed all of that and more at the Combine with absolutely amazing interviews and just an expansive knowledge of the game. And when you take that and you add to it the upside that he has as a quarterback, as an athlete, now you're looking at a guy that absolutely could end up being the next Lamar Jackson. Somewhere in between Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. That's where I've kind of got him pegged right now. He's not going to be as quick or as dynamic on the ground as Lamar Jackson, and I think he's got a stronger arm than Jalen Hurts and could end up developing some traits that Jalen Hurts just doesn't seem to have, and end up being a little bit more of a consistent playmaker than Jalen Hurts. So for me, Malik Willis, I'm going to go with him at number 2 to the Detroit Lions. They take the upside here. They got an up-close look at him at the draft, or they got an up-close look at him at the Senior Bowl. They got an up-close look at him at the Combine. He's now showed out at his pro day. He's done everything right. I think the Lions end up going with him at number 2. Number 4 on my big board, Ikem Ekwonu. I love this kid. He is a guy that I think is going to be one of the next dominant left tackles in all of football. Everything I said about Evan Neal a few minutes ago absolutely goes to Ekwonu as well, except for the fact that I think his ceiling is higher than Neal's. I think Neal is always going to be a very, very good offensive tackle. I think Ekwonu has an opportunity to be a dominant left tackle in football. This is a guy that has moved all over the place. He's played on the interior of the offensive line. He's played on the exterior of the offensive line, tackle and guard. He can dominate, absolutely dominate on the ground in the run game, and he can absolutely he can stay with your most athletic edge rushers in the league. I love this kid. I think he's going to be a dominating force at the next level. The Giants taking him at 5th overall seem to be a great projection for him. I hope that he ends up going there. They use him to open up some spots for Saquon Barkley if they don't trade him, and really, really, really protect Daniel Jones, which if they're going to stick with him another year, they got to do their best to protect him and give him time to throw. And number 3 for me is going to be Kayvon Thibodeaux, edge rusher out of Oregon. This is a kid that, to me, can do everything on the football field. But I think at the next level, he's going to be asked to be a pure pass rusher because he's so good in those things. He is such a good pass rusher. I think people are going to end up utilizing him the way they utilize Von Miller. Standing up on the edge, maybe putting his hand in the ground sometime, but you are so good at going to get the quarterback, you go get the quarterback. Like, that's going to be what they do. You're so good at getting the quarterback, go get the quarterback. And the Texans at 3 overall, Thibodeaux is going to be the guy there that they need to go with. I absolutely believe that they're going to need to go with Thibodeaux there. Really help kind of redo that defense there, get that defense in a better position to help out. And then at that point, they can worry about some of the other positions later on. They're not going to go quarterback because they want to get Davis Mills. They want to get Davis Mills going. I think that they're really sticking with him, and that's one of the reasons why they made the trade that they did with Deshaun Watson and didn't ask for Baker Mayfield in return, because there was no reason to, because they believe in Davis Mills. Going offensive line, they could potentially go offensive line to help protect Davis Mills, but I think the upside of Thibodeaux at number 3 overall is just going to be way too much for the Texans to pass up. Aidan Hutchinson's my number 2 player on the board. Absolutely love Aidan Hutchinson. As a Michigan fan, I got the opportunity to watch him a lot this season. And I think the entire world has really said Aidan Hutchinson is going to be a guy that is going to play well at the next level. I think there is some talk about whether or not he's going to be a dominating player at the next level. Combine went well for him. I think he's a guy that showed out very well. He interviews very well. The thing that sets him apart really from other defensive players is just you can see it on the football field. Football for him, the game is just slower than it is for everybody else. He understands what's going on before it happens, as it happens. He's able to make a lot of changes right in the middle of the gameplay, seeing what's going on right there. He's got some very good athletic abilities. He's a beast on the field. He can stop the run. He can set the edge. He can get to the quarterback. He can really do everything that you want to. And I think he's going to end up going first to the Jaguars. I believe that they should draft an offensive tackle, but based on the things I'm seeing now, I think Aidan Hutchinson goes to Jacksonville at number 1 overall. Now, the number 1 player on my big board this year, Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. This is a kid that may end up being one of the next true superstars in the NFL. When you look at his tape and when you look at his ability, he is not good in everything. He is not very good in everything. He is damn near great in everything he does. He can play man-to-man. He can play in zone. He can play in coverage. This is a guy that only allowed 1 touchdown his entire NFL career while in coverage. He can play up in the box. He can get after the quarterback. He can track a running back down. He can play as like a hybrid linebacker. He can play in the slot. He can move to the outside. Kyle Hamilton he's a ball hawk. He will go after the ball and he will make consistent plays on the ball. This is a guy that I absolutely love in every aspect of the game. I think he goes number 4 overall to the Jets, or at least I hope he does. And if anybody is letting this guy slide outside the top 5, you have made a horrible, horrible mistake. I wanted the Lions to go Hutchinson at number 2 for the longest time. I think Hutchinson goes number 1 now, so now I'm okay with them going Malik Willis after I've gotten a chance to see more of him. But the next guy that I would want in line would be Kyle Hamilton. He's a field general. He's a leader. He's going to be one of the best on the field his entire NFL career. I cannot wait to see it. This is a guy that is going to absolutely dominate the game of football for years to come. To me, he's a bigger, stronger Tyrann Mathieu. That is how good that this guy is going to end up being. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my top 10 NFL prospects for the 2022 draft. Hit the like button for me. And before you get out of here, do not forget that our friends over at Manscaped have partnered with us again this season. So if you're needing to get yourself cleaned up before the summer months get here, head to manscaped.com. Use code Headward. Code Headward? I'm not really sure what I just said there. Use code word Headliners at checkout. You're going to get 20% off of your purchase and free shipping. That's code word headliners. Head over to manscaped.com. Place your order today. Everybody stay safe and healthy out there. Subscribe to the channel. Comment down below. Let me know some of your top players in this draft. Who do you want your team to draft? Let me know that as well. And I will make sure that I catch all of you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on third down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that chub life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation.
I'm a headliner.